Welcome to the Too Much to Say podcast, where we have too much to say. Episode 24, Week 2 NFL Power Rankings. I know this comes 2 weeks after the moral morass of American football, but I still don't take back anything I said. However, we are going to hop in and we're going to rank all. It is week 2 and it is time for some overreactions to all the games that happened Saturday or Sunday and the week before that. But first, I want to thank everybody for joining us out on at twitch.tv/2m2s. Everybody who has subscribed while we're not online, we got Reginald Vendonger the third and Persistent Parker. You are both very appreciated, and we got some biddies from Keep Knifing. Want to extend a special thank you to you for helping support the stream. If you want, you can join us. It is 8:30 Eastern Time at twitch.tv/2m2s, or you can catch us afterwards on everywhere where your podcasts needs are supplied. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, so on and so forth. Stitcher. We are everywhere. So I appreciate you wherever you're catching us. Let's go ahead and hop into the weekly random. And we are going to start with our beloved president, who has decided that when things are true, he can say they're not. So recently, the mayor of Puerto Rico admitted that basically 3,000 people rather than 64 people had died after the hurricane from Maria. And this is what our lovely president had to say about it on Twitter just 4 days ago. When Trump visited the island territory last October, officials told him in a briefing 16 people had died from Maria. The Washington Post. This was long after the hurricane took place. Over many months, it went to 64. Then, like magic, 3,000 people killed. He continues on his second tweet. They hired GW Research to tell them how many people had died in Puerto Rico. How would they not know this? This method was never done with previous hurricanes because other jurisdictions know how many people were killed. 50 times the last original number. No way! So, I mean, there's so much to unpack in those lovely tweets from our president. I think the first thing is, regardless of how many people died, the United States government, also regardless of who was in charge, did an absolute shit job handling Hurricane Maria. The amount of time it took for Puerto Rico, well, I believe does Puerto Rico have power? There we are. No, this was from is there power on? So as of July 17th, there's got to be a new one. Oh, here we are. Power restoration on August 14th. It was finally completed. It took and what was that, 10 months? It took 10 months to get power back on in Puerto Rico? That is mind-boggling. This is a U.S. territory with U.S. citizens, and our government just basically watched them just wallow without power, without support, and 3,000 people died from Hurricane Maria. And our president can't stand to take the criticism. can't admit that he made a mistake. Fantastic. All right. Let's hop into our next tweet. This one I have dubbed the Ted Cruz mailer tweet. That doesn't come from Ted Cruz, but instead comes from Twitter user Sean Owen. He posted a picture on the 15th showing that his mother received a letter that his mother received in the mail. It says that it's a summons form from Travis County. But if you take a little deeper dive, so in the upper left-hand corner of this, it shows official Travis County summons, voter enrollment campaign division. Beneath that, Ted Cruz for Senate 2018. And then in big bold letters, summons enclosed, open immediately. And then in a tweet, just in response, he actually shows the letter is actually it says 2018 campaign summons form. And it's just a mailer asking for money. I mean, I posted this on Twitter, but the documentaries that are going to come out of this era are going to be wild. I mean, they are going to be out there, and it's all going to be true. We're going to know a lot more than we know now. I mean, if they think this shit's not getting like unpacked and we're not going to ever, like, there are going to be historians going crazy on this stuff. And so, like I said, my only complaint is that Ken Burns assumably won't be around when this all happens. So if we could somehow just like clone him, or I don't think cryogenics works that well right now, but we're gonna need somebody to step up here in about. I mean, the first movies are gonna come out in like 5 years probably, but a really good documentary 20 years from now, when this is all said and done, we know the outcomes, and we've been able to, dive in deeper. But, alright. That's our first two. Number 3. This comes from the CBC in Canada. And they said, Canada's artificial trans fat ban comes into effect. So, 15 years ago, Canada's MPs voted for a trans fat ban, and is now coming into effect, which is, better late than never. So research has shown that the ban could prevent 12,000 heart attacks over a 20-year period in Canada. So that's pretty cool. We started off with the rough stuff. The first two are a little bit rough. The next two are going to be a lot better. Being purple is cool, but if I can press that button. There we go. Let's not be purple anymore. Cool. So that's excellent. That's great. There's going to be a phase out period. Everything that's on the shelf is, they're going to let people clear the shelves. Aren't going to rip it off the shelves, but that's good stuff. Step 1. Hopefully, next step is for America to do this. I think we like obesity too much. That's all right, though. Number 4, the European Union is going to stop doing daylight savings time in October of 2019. Now, I think it was earlier. I think it was episode 3. Episode 4 was unpopular opinions. I hate daylight savings time. That may not even be an unpopular opinion. One that doesn't get talked about enough. I know we have a lot of large things to fix, but this is a small one. Just get rid of it. Daylight savings time is just annoying. There doesn't seem to be any benefit. I hate falling back. I hate springing forward. And then if you have little kids, it just fucks with their sleep schedule. Just get rid of it. No more daylight savings time. It's nonsense. So, good for you, European Union. Good for you. All right. Let's hop into the Reddit shower thought of the week. my week? There you are. This one comes from user Electric Gremlin. Being in high school is like playing the main storyline of a video game where you have easily defined goals and missions. Being an adult is like after you beat the game and you just kind of wander around aimlessly collecting stuff you don't really need. This is, I honestly, nothing could be more accurate. A more accurate description of adulthood. It's like in WoW, if WoW, like, but WoW doesn't have in-game, if WoW didn't have in-game content, pretty much. So, thank you, Electric Gremlin. But let's go ahead. We're going to hop in to the main event. There will be. Oh, I know. I watched the Triple G Canelo fight. That's some good shit. I'm not a huge boxing fan, but like those big fights, man, I love me some boxing. That was, I mean, watching the two of them go at it, and I was surprised by the amount of outrage by people saying that Canelo won. One way or the other, there should have been no outrage. If Triple G won, I wouldn't have been outraged. If they had tied, I wouldn't have been outraged. It was such a close fight that, I mean, Canelo winning was fine. I thought he won, actually. I thought he was more aggressive most of the fight. But good stuff, though. All right. Let's do some power rankings. And we are going to start off on the bottom. And who else could be on the bottom of the the Too Much to Say podcast power rankings than the one and only Buffalo Bills? What the? There we go. They are basically the definition of ineptitude. After getting absolutely blasted in week 1 by Baltimore, and then watching Baltimore lose in week 2. And then they go ahead and lose again. Well, of course they lose again in week 2. But then they go ahead and lose in week 2. Hold on, let me. And it wasn't even close. I mean, they're not even competitive. It reminds. I mean, the thing is, in football, and so in the NBA, people can tank. It's a 82 game season. Tanking usually nets you like 16 to 20 wins, but you tank. I mean, you still get a couple wins. It's not much of a consolation, but you get a couple wins. In the NFL, man, it is just a sad thing to behold because you go 0-16. I don't foresee anyone. I don't foresee the Buffalo Bills beating anyone. They're absolutely putrid. They're not even worth watching. Their quarterback play. I mean, I know they're finally gonna transition to their new quarterback, but Nathan Peterman. Like when people are angry about Colin Kaepernick not having a job, that's what people are watching, and that's why they're angry. It's because of people like Nathan Peterman, who you're kind of amazed he played in college. Like, he looks like a high school quarterback. But, I mean, the San Diego Chargers, who got browbeaten by the Chiefs in the first week, come in the second week and just beat on the Bills. I mean, I guess the Bills did get 20 points, but man, that margin, that 31 to 20 was that game was not that close. Not that close. Number 31, excuse me. We have these ones really shouldn't be that much of a surprise, but it's the Arizona Cardinals, who, I mean, Sam Bradford is, I mean, I know he had a few years. He was a better quarterback in college, but it's done. Like, you have Larry Fitzgerald and David Johnson, and you have no clue what you're doing. You have a top. I mean, let's just say top 12, top 12 running back or wide receiver, and a top. Well, he's like I think pretty sure last year he was the number one receiving running back. So you have two elite weapons in the passing game, and you're. I mean, week one they scored no points, and then week two they. I mean, this is. We're gonna see a couple of historically bad teams this year. A week one they lost 24-6. They made the Redskins look decent. The Redskins, who just lost to the Colts and scored I think 11 points, the Redskins beat them 24-6, and this week they got beaten 34-0 by the Rams. I mean, the Rams are good, but still, they scored no points. To go even further, their quarterback passed for less than 100 yards. They rushed for less than 60 yards. Like, they have no clue what they're doing. It is. I mean, it really is sad. In all honesty, and I don't think it's not going to get much better. Next week they have the Bears, then they have the Seahawks. I mean, we'll see where I have them in my rankings, but I just think there's a large gap. We kind of do this in tiers. This is my bottom tier. The bottom tier I have basically is the bottom 6 teams. So, let's move on. Number 30. We have the Detroit Lions. I feel so bad for Detroit Lion fans. Like, the Lions have struggled for so many years. And yet, what does the ownership go and do after Jim Caldwell? They go, well, I think there's a coach in the middle between Jim Caldwell, but now they go out and try to get the defensive coordinator from the New England Patriots, Matt Patricia, who clearly has no idea what he's doing. And other than the Arizona Cardinals and the Buffalo Bills, they have the worst plus or minus or differential. They are negative 34. They have given up 78 points, which ties them for the least number of points. Or ties them for the most given up points in the league. They got thumped by the New York Jets, and then this week they lost 30-27 to the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, they're just bad. They really are. They're just bad. I really feel horrible for Detroit Lion fans. You guys got Matt Stafford, but that's all you could ever put out. I mean, you had Matt Stafford and Calvin Johnson at the same time, and then you get a couple of nice, somewhat nice running backs, like passable running backs, but just have absolutely no coach. And so just zero chance of ever doing anything, despite the fact that, I mean, I'm not saying Matt Stafford's a winner or an amazing quarterback, but he's serviceable. And if your team could put together, I mean, when you have Calvin Johnson, he's going to make any quarterback look better. And Matt Stafford's got a nice arm. But the coaching in Detroit has been awful. Yeah, like I said, feel horrible for Detroit. It somewhat pained me to put them at 30. Number 29, We have the New York Giants. Now, I don't really feel bad for the New York Giants. Maybe for the. No, don't feel bad for the New York. But it's kind of sad when you draft a running back in round one. No, I mean pick two. When your quarterback is, I mean, he's basically out. I mean, he should be out of the NFL. He's not his brother. Eli Manning is, I mean, even his brother, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Wow, this little rectangle is struggling. Um, Even his brother, like, I mean, I'd say if Peyton hadn't had all those injuries, that he would have been fine at the end of his career, similar to Brady, Breeze, all them. But Eli's never really been that great. I mean, I know he won 2 Super Bowls, but he really won those on the back of his defense and a couple of nice plays. It's kind of like Nick Foles. He was a little bit less quality than Nick Foles, and I mean, look at Nick Foles. He's terrible. He's Nick Foles. He's what we all knew he was. But no, they look putrid. They got Saquon Barkley, who looks. They have Saquon Barkley, who's top 6 running back, somewhere like that, and they have Odell Beckham Jr., who's a top 5 wide receiver, and they have no offense. They just lost to the Dallas Cowboys, and they can only score 13 points with Odell Beckham Jr. and Saquon Barkley. That's inexcusable. There's no reason that should happen. The reason that happened is because they drafted Saquon Barkley instead of Sam Darnold. Running backs are not that. They're fucking fun to watch. It is true. It is awesome to watch a running back get out in the field, break tackles, break ankles, plow through people. But they're just not that valuable. And a decent one isn't that expensive or that hard to find. It really is sad. All right. Number 28. The Oakland Raiders. This isn't that much of a surprise. My goodness. After they traded their best player, man, this rectangle thing did not work out for me. Not like I was hoping it would. This isn't that much of a surprise after they traded Khalil Mack to the Bears. I mean, you don't trade your best player. I mean, if you have absolutely no talent, but Khalil Mack's the second best defensive player in the league. I mean, he is one of the I mean, it's basically him, Aaron Donald, and a healthy J.J. Watt. Those are like the 3 no trade, like you would never trade, you would only trade for. And they gave up a wide receiver. I'm sorry, they gave up a second round draft pick in return. For I think they got 2 firsts, but they had to give up a second. Like that is horrible. I mean, I do think they're going to get a win. They might even get their next one. Who we got this upcoming week? They're playing the Dolphins. I don't know. I think the Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins are a better team. They've had kind of a rough go. The Oakland's actually played a couple. This last game against the Broncos was really tight, but they look like a mess. They got trashed by the Rams. Not that much of a surprise, but this might be an overreaction at 28. They should be higher. The kind of my mindset when it comes to these power rankings are, who would I want to play the least or the most in this case, working from bottom to top. Well, I'd rather play Oakland than the teams above it. But number 28, the Oakland Raiders. Number 26, we have the Dallas Cowboys. who are awful. I mean, I know that they have a win. I know they beat the Giants. That's not really an accomplishment. They have no wide receivers and no offensive line. Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. But no one can be expected to look like a good quarterback when you have no offensive line and no wide receivers to throw to. They don't even have a tight end. They just retired. All they have is Ezekiel Elliott. But what's a running back worth if you have no offensive line? It's time to part ways with Jason Garrett. I mean, it's only it is Jason Garrett's fault, but it's also management's fault and Jerry Jones's fault because he doesn't know how to draft. Number 26, we have the oh wow, it's working out well for me. The Houston Texans. This is a pretty far drop for the Houston Texans. I just couldn't see putting them higher. Oh yeah, go ahead and reveal it. I just really couldn't see putting them any higher after they got beat by the New England Patriots pretty soundly, and then to see the Patriots get beat by Jacksonville so soundly. Like, I thought that it was just kind of like, if I had done these rankings last week, I would have put the Texans up higher and then looked stupid because they're actually pretty bad. And I mean, it could be argued that they should have, would have, could have beaten the Titans, but Deshaun Watson, I mean, he's going to be back to himself. He's not yet. His offensive line is horrible. He keeps getting hit. It's really hard to watch because he was one of my favorite players to watch last year. They have the weapons. So, I mean, with DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller showed out. I mean, it's hard to watch, honestly, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. They have the Giants. They should get their first win of the year this upcoming week. I really want to see prime Deshaun Watson again. I cannot wait. It's hard to show that in the first couple of weeks. It's really hard to show that when you don't have an offensive line. I do not understand why people, once they get a quarterback, they don't just drop every year first round draft pick on an offensive lineman. First, second, third. At least you should have one offensive lineman drafted in one of those rounds every year, regardless of whether or not you actually have your quarterback. They're just there. They are that valuable. You want the premium offensive talent. That's why for my Falcons, it was seeing them draft Calvin Ridley just absolutely infuriated me. They drafted 0 offensive linemen. Complete nonsense. Anyway. All right. Number 25. We have the New York Jets. Let's look at that. I want to pause just for a second on the Jets. The Jets, I guess not pause, but I want to double back because the Jets are 1-1. They're number 25. They're 1-1. I just want to point out how large of a gap there is between number 25 and number 30. The Jets beat the Lions 48-17 with a rookie quarterback who threw a pick 6 on his very first pass. The first pass of this game was Sam Darnold throwing an interception that went back for a touchdown. The Lions then scored 10 points to close out the game. And the Jets scored 48. They got the living shit beat out of them. That's a 5 rank difference. That is how bad the Lions. I really feel like the bottom 4 are just have no hope. the Giants, the Lions, the Cardinals, the Buffaloes. Those bottom two could legitimately go 0-16. I would expect the Giants and Oakland to get some, or I'd expect the Lions and the Giants to at least get a win. There's Arizona and Buffalo might actually go 0-16, which I would love to see. Hold on, is that possible? We need to verify. Do they play each other? Arizona and Buffalo. They do not play each other. The Lions do play Arizona, so that one of them will not be going 0-16. But the Buffalo Bills and Arizona Cardinals do not play each other. They're 0-16. The dream is alive right now for two teams, and that's wonderful. Like I said, I think that drafting I think you have to draft the offensive lineman. I think you have to protect your quarterback. You have to get one first in the case of Buffalo Bills. I think both the Buffalo Bills and Arizona Cardinals are getting closer to bringing out their rookie quarterbacks. So hopefully Josh Rosen can revitalize the Cardinals. And Josh Allen can revitalize the Buffalo Bills. We shall see. Anything's got to be better than what they got out there right now. So we got high hopes, or low hopes, I guess. I mean, all right, number 24. Your 2000. What was it? 2014. Hold on, I gotta get this right. Yeah, 2000. Hey, got it for that. 2014 Super Bowl champions, the Seattle Seahawks. I'm gonna be honest. They look pretty damn bad. I mean, I actively feel bad for Russell Wilson trying to go out there and play on this team. I mean, they played a couple of that. Well, the Bears and Seahawks wasn't that close, but the Broncos, they played the Broncos somewhat tight. But Broncos don't look that great either. And they're higher up, obviously they're 2-0. And this week they are going to get to play the Cowboys, so there's a little bit of hope there. They have the next two games are Cowboys Cardinals, so we could have a 2-2 Seahawks team. And then they get Cowboys, Cardinals, Rams. So week 5 we could have a 2-2 Seahawks team, but I mean that's just like the law of averages. This seems pretty bad. This is the reason you don't dump a lot of money into defense and then lose your defense. There's kind of a formula for how to work in the NFL. Mind you, they got a Super Bowl, which a lot of teams like the Falcons can't boast. But there's kind of a formula in the NFL on how to build a team. You want to get a cheap quarterback, spend money on your offensive line, get a cheap running back, pay some money on a wide receiver, and get a cheap tight end. And then on defense, you want to get expensive defensive ends, maybe a defensive lineman who costs well. Otherwise, most of that's pretty low budget. And then you get a really good cornerback, but then pretty much everything else is relatively cheap. Not super cheap, but relatively cheap. The money goes to the defensive line, offensive line, your quarterback, maybe a cornerback, and then some of your skill positions, but not just wide receiver essentially. And they didn't really do that. They have one offensive weapon, and he's hurt. Doug Baldwin's out. So, I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, kind of sad. All right. Where were we? I do think they have a very real possibility of going 2-2 though, with the next two they have on their slate. Oh, that's what my problem is. All right, number 23, we have the Washington Redskins. And now this is again the gap. The Washington Redskins pummeled the Cardinals. What was it? 24. I love when I look at something and then I immediately can't remember it. 24-6. Washington looked like world beaters. I mean, Sam Bradford was 21 for 30, 255 yards with 2 touchdowns. Adrian, my knees and energy are gone. Peterson had 96 yards and a touchdown, and then 70 yards receiving for two receptions. That's number 23 and number 31. That's the bottom third and the middle third. It's sad. It's sad how bad that bottom is, truly. And I mean, I'm not even. I don't know. I don't even feel bad for them. This is a bad team. They're gonna get the daylights beat out of them for the next 3 weeks. They have the Packers, the Saints, and the Panthers. They're most likely gonna be 1-4. And then they get the Cowboys and the Giants. So they'll get they might legitimately 3-4. They after beating on some of the weakest teams. All right. Number 22, we have the San Francisco 49ers. Now we're starting to get into teams that are, I feel like, honestly, everybody from 23 down has zero chance of doing anything special this year. And I mean, I wouldn't say San Francisco has a chance to be special, but I think they have a lot of promise. They have a good foundation to become better. I'd say maybe even the Texans do too. Once they figure out the offensive line situation and Deshaun Jackson's, works his way into shape. I mean, that when you sit out as long as he has, it takes a little bit to get up to game speed. So, all right. Let me hit this real quick. There we go. So, but San Francisco, they are 1-1. They squeaked out a win this week against the Lions, which does not bode well for them. They get to play the Chiefs this upcoming week, the Chargers after that, and then the Cardinals. So we're probably looking at, that's 3 losses? I mean, they played the Vikings relatively tightly. They lost 24-16. And the Vikings are a really good team. So, we all knew that Jimmy Garoppolo was coming down. He had won 5 games in a row to close out last season. The team's not that good. He's a good quarterback, but he's not that good. I mean, he got that paycheck, so shout out to him on that one. But legitimately, they're probably going to be a 2-3 team going to the Packers. That brings us to 2-4. Rams 3-4 or 2-4. Wait, yeah, 2-4, 2-5. Cardinals 3-5. I mean, they're gonna get some wins. That this middle part will. Again, somebody has to win a game, even if they are horrible. Number 21, we have the Indianapolis Colts. See, I think I have the Colts a little higher than most people. I'm pretty bullish on Andrew Luck. I know people are like, oh, the yards are short. Again, it takes a while to work back into game shape, but he's accurate. He's staying in there. He's taking some hits. He's still ticking. They got a W this week. beating on the Washington Redskins because the Redskins are sad. But I mean, that's essentially what you're supposed to do in the NFL. They went in, they lost to the Bengals, gave the Bengals a scare. Bengals looked like a pretty decent team. And then they went and beat on the sad Redskins. This week they have the Eagles. Week after that, Texans. Then they have Patriots. Carson Wentz is supposed to come back for the Eagles. The Colts could steal one. Carson Wentz may not be 100%. Nick Foles has looked awful. They went and they stole a win from Atlanta when Atlanta looked awful. But the difference is Atlanta woke up the next week. Philadelphia is horrible. They've looked terrible. They're lucky to have beaten Atlanta. So I don't know. I kind of like their chances on the Eagles this week. I like their chances against the Eagles, Texans. Then they have the Patriots. Then they have the Jets. So I mean, there's a roadmap to being 4-2. Not a bad record. Oh, then they have the Bills, 5-2. Then they get the Raiders. I mean, there's a roadmap for them to come out of this. I mean, they could easily go and lose against the Eagles and the Texans, and then the Patriots, and just hit a skid. But I like Andrew Luck. There's a roadmap for 5-2 for them. So that's 21. That's why they're number 21. Number 20. Speaking of those Eagles, I have the Eagles at 20th. Now, I know this is a lot lower than most people. They've looked awful. I mean, the only reason you would have them ranked higher is because of what they did. But they, like right now, ESPN has them at a 72, Eagles over Indianapolis, 72%. I'm just not sure what you're seeing. The Eagles look dreadful. They were not inspiring against the Atlanta Falcons. That was a very ugly game. I mean, I know it's a Thursday night game, but it's not really a Thursday night game because it's the first game of the season. Like, it doesn't come with all the negatives that a Thursday night game. Heck, having a Thursday night game should be a benefit because your second game, you get more time to prepare than anybody else, and you didn't ever have to have the short week. And yet they still got I say destroyed. Fitzmagic destroyed them. Four touchdowns, 400 yards. They lost 27-21, and the Tampa Bay didn't even sniff the playoffs last year. This is quite the Super Bowl hangover from the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe they'll look different with Carson Wentz. I mean, he's been out how long, and he's coming back right now. I mean, I guess the Colts are a good team to want to come back against. Mind you, me having them at 20, that's their performance this far. If I had to play the team that I've seen, I have 19 teams I'd like to play. I would want to not play instead of them. But who knows what we'll see with Carson Wentz. It's a wild card. It's against the Colts. They have the Colts, then the Titans, then the Vikings. If Carson Wentz is an all-star, they win 2 out of 3 of those. If Carson Wentz looks like Nick Foles, they probably lose all of them. I mean, there is a possibility of them being, 1-3, 1-4. Going to the Giants, they win that one. Then they get the Panthers. Then they get the Jags. This is not an easy schedule for the Eagles. They need Carson Wentz to come back and be the man again. Number 19, the Tennessee Titans. I mean, as you see here, I guess right now I don't have them favored with Carson Wentz. Obviously, if he's back to how he played last year, I would have them favored. He was a world beater. But the Tennessee Titans lost against the Dolphins week 1 and then stole one against the Texans. Now I know there's a large gap for a 3-point victory, and maybe the Titans should be lower. I could definitely see it. But I mean, they had promise, and this upcoming week we're gonna get to see probably them get beat on by the Jaguars. But they probably should be low. They just lost Mariota. That's what makes the Texans so low for me. Is that the Titans just didn't have Mariota, and they still lost. They still lost. The Texans still lost against the Dolphins. They lost 27-0 with Mariota, and they lost Delaney Walker, their starting tight end, who's actually pretty good. So, not a good look. Not a good look. So we'll see. Against the Jaguars, then the Eagles, then the Bills. Real possibility of them being 1-3 going to the Bills, so 2-3. Then the Ravens, then the Chargers, then the Cowboys. They got a pretty rough schedule for the most part. So not a good look. Not a good look. But all right. Number 19. Or number 18. Your Carolina Panthers. I think this is kind of where the list shifts again. Oh, I had it shifting with Philadelphia. So my first tier, my bottom tier was Dallas, Oakland, New York Giants, Detroit, Arizona, Buffalo. That second tier was Houston, New York Jets, Seattle, Washington, San Francisco, Indianapolis. And then our third tier is Philadelphia, Tennessee, Carolina, and our team above them. I think this middle tier, we got 6 tiers. I think this tier, all of these teams had a lot of promise. Tennessee probably should drop out of it just because of the injuries. But these 4 teams had promise going into the season. They've looked less than stellar. They've underachieved, but still have potential, with maybe the exception of the Titans. But they did get a win. Anyway, so we have the Carolina Panthers, your 1-1 Carolina Panthers, who opened up the year with a pretty uninspired victory over the putrid Dallas Cowboys. It was 16-8. I mean, really, 16-8. Well, thank you, Reginald Vendonger III, for the 10 bits. I sure do appreciate it, brother. He becomes our new top donor in the chat, so I appreciate that. Glad you're liking everything. But, all right, so our Carolina is going to play the Bengals. That's most likely a loss. Then we get the Giants, then the Redskins, then the Eagles. So there's a pretty decent chance of being 3-2 going to the Eagles. The Eagles might be back to where they should be with Carson Wentz. So it might be that might be a hard win there. But they definitely have a path to being 3-2. I mean, if they've looked pretty bad. I can't see them beating the Bengals. So I would presume a 3-2 start for the Carolina Panthers. Number 17, we have the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore, this is another one of those gappers. Baltimore opens up the season with a picture perfect just drubbing of the Buffalo Bills. 47-3. The very next week they come against the Bengals. I say blind Bengals because I swear nobody believed in them. I did actually have the have Buffalo winning this, or sorry, no, have the Bengals winning this. They get beaten 34-21. Joe Flacco no longer looks like a superhero. He looked like a superhero against the Bills. But that's what happens when you play you play the Buffalo Bills. Everyone looks like an all-pro. I mean, it's like a glorified scrimmage. Except you're an NFL team and they kind of are. So we have the Buffalo Bills. So I've got Baltimore at number 17 in the bottom half. Next week they have the Broncos. That should be interesting. Then the Steelers, then the Browns, then the Titans, then the Saints, then the Woo. I mean, those are pretty. That's a not. There's no cupcakes. Not until what week is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're next. The easiest game. They have like one easy game for the rest of the year. Week 11 against the Raiders. They have Broncos, Steelers, Browns, Titans. Titans could be easier, I guess. Saints, Panthers, Steelers, Bengals, Raiders. Falcons, Chiefs, Buccaneers, Chargers, Browns. I mean, the real question is, when is Lamar Jackson getting in there? Because there's a real... I mean, the Saints haven't looked great, but there's just a real possibility of, like, going somewhere around, like, 4-12. And it's not so much that they're that bad of a team. I have them at 17, but I just don't see a week. I don't see someone... I don't see a cupcake on their schedule. I mean, this could be rough. Could be rough. All right, number 16. Your winless Cleveland Browns, who managed and continue to manage to snatch defeat or a tie from the jaws of victory. The Cleveland Browns have offended the football gods. They have clearly besmirched the good names of the football gods, and the football gods now demand recompense. And I believe that is in the form of Hugh Jackson. The fact that man has a job after over the last 2 years going 1-31, he's got to have like some very compromising pictures of the Browns owners. Either that, or the Browns are like, well, we can't find anybody else. Nobody else wants to come coach this. Go just grab a hungry coach from the college ranks. I mean, Kyle Shanahan, like, just got scooped up by San Francisco. I mean, he was bouncing around and got all the way to the Atlanta Falcons to be their offensive coordinator. You guys could have had him 2 years ago to be your head coach. Anything's better than Hugh Jackson. The clown known as Hugh Jackson. But that being said, I have them at 16 because they actually have a lot of talent. Their defense looks rather good. They barely lost to the Saints. They tied the Steelers despite having Hugh Jackson. I mean, if I'm an NFL coach, I want this job just based on talent alone. I mean, they've been drafting number 1, number 2, between 1 and 4 for the last 10 years. Number 15, the aforementioned Pittsburgh Steelers. Week 1, they come out with a riveting tie against the Browns, and then week 2, one of the highest scoring, probably the highest scoring game of the year so far, against the against the Kansas City Chiefs, 42-37. Ben Roethlisberger hobbling around, rushing in for touchdowns, throwing dimes. I mean, I know he's been paid well, and he's probably not that. He has shown things that make him not that great of a guy. But as a quarterback, is there anyone that you feel worse for than Ben Roethlisberger? He has been just beaten on his entire career to the point where his legs barely function. I've never seen. If any of the other quarterbacks in the league had taken the drubbing that he did, they would look like a Dak Prescott. Like, just going back like a couple of years, the greatest show on turf was led by future Hall of Famer. He's either inducted or going to be inducted, Kurt Warner. And yet when his offensive line went, he looked awful. To the point where he led them to like 2 Super Bowls, and they kicked him off the team for Mark Bulger. And then fast forward, once he has a real offensive line for the Cardinals a few years ago, he looks like freaking Superman again. And yet, here we are with Ben Roethlisberger. He's done it without an offensive line his entire career. I mean, having lived through this era, I'm just impressed by him. He threw for 452 yards, 3 touchdowns, and they still lost because Patrick Mahomes, who is on both of my fantasy teams, is my godchild, threw 6 touchdowns. A beautiful man, just a beautiful man. Anyway, number 15 we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 15. This week, we got the Buccaneers, which that's going to be another shootout. Buccaneers have no defense, but they also have a pretty amazing offense with Fitzmagic. But Steelers also have no defense. So it'll be quite interesting. Then we get the Ravens, the Falcons, the Bengals, the Browns, the Ravens, the Panthers. Man, I tell you what, being in the AFC North is not a treat this year. I mean, all the teams look decent. And apparently you get to play the NFC South. That was who they matched you up with. So you get the AFC North, the NFC South. The NFC South is stacked. And I'd say individually the teams are like the NFC South is probably the hardest division to play in this year. I would probably put AFC. Top to bottom, AFC North's number 2. AFC West's pretty strong. But they only have 3 with the Raiders being. So, yeah, I would say AFC North's number 2. And then you have the NFC North and AFC West. That's a brutal schedule for the AFC North, though. So, I think we're going to see them just get. The winner of that division could easily be like 9-7, or I hope. Maybe 10-6. Maybe 10-6. They'll have to get some wins against. They do. I guess they have the Bengals. Anyway, number 14. Your Miami Dolphins. Your 2-0 Miami Dolphins leading the AFC East. I think I'm a little more bullish on them than most people. After beating the Titans and then the Jets, I do think the Jets will. I know they came back to earth. And I've only got them at number 25. I do think they have some potential with Sam Darnold. So, and they have Enunwa, their wide receiver, looks good. It'll be very interesting. They're an interesting team for sure. All right. So Dolphins have Raiders, Patriots, Bengals, Bears, Lions. They're going to be the Raiders. That Patriots game will probably go south for them. They'll be a good game though. They play it, man. Every year the Miami Dolphins play the Patriots strong. regardless of how good they are. So they have a decent team this year. Shows what Adam Gase can do with a real quarterback. I mean, Ryan Tannehill is not much, but he's still better than Jay Cutler. Then they get the Bears. Then they get the Lions. Lions, that's another win. Texans should be a win. Jets should be a win since they just beat them. Colts. I mean, I definitely see like a roadmap for them to make the playoffs this year. For sure. For sure. Number 13. Your Los Angeles Chargers. I think it's a pity they're no longer San Diego. Oh, I didn't call them the San Diego. Okay. I better not have called them the San Diego Chargers earlier. Your Los Angeles Chargers are 1-1. They're coming off of a win against the illustrious Bills after getting a pretty good drubbing by the Chiefs, letting Patrick Mahomes do basically whatever he wanted. They faced some stiff competition this week. They got the Los Angeles Rams. But then the week after that, they got 49ers, Raiders, Browns, Titans, Seahawks, Raiders. I mean, that's a loss against the Rams. So now we're, 1-2. 49ers and Raiders should be a couple of wins. That's 3-2. Browns. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if Baker Mayfield gets to play. Tyrod Taylor looks Brownful. He looks just like a Browns quarterback. Like every other Browns quarterback. I mean, I'm not a huge Baker fan, but I mean, I have the Browns at number 16. They have a chance. Get Tyrod out of there. Titans, that should be a win. Then the Seahawks, that's a win. Raiders, that's a win. Broncos, that's some stiff competition. Cardinals, I mean, they have some harder games. I guess the end of their season is Steelers, Bengals, Chiefs, Ravens, Broncos. But they should be able to go in there. I mean, there's 8-8. I mean, 7-9. There's some possibility there. Some decent possibility. Number 12, your Chicago Bears. I think I have the Bears higher than most people. I love Khalil Mack on this team, though. I know they're 1-1. They let the Packers come back. The Packers look good, though. They beat the Seahawks. They get the Cardinals this week. They're going to be 2-1. I want to see Khalil Mack just go out there and just dominate the Cardinals. I need a strip sack. I need an interception for a pick six. Oh, wait, I already got all of that stuff from him. I want it again. Khalil. I want to see you just – I want you to rub the fact that the Oakland Raiders passed on you in their face every single – or not passed on you, but traded you every single week. Got him at number 12. I really like I don't like Mitch Trubisky. I mean, he's kind of the anchor. Maybe the young buck gets better over the season. Usually, how long they've been going? He's been playing. I think is this his third season or second season? All right, this is his second season. I mean, his QBR and his quarterback rating is a little higher than last year. But, I mean, I don't know, he's not looking that great. He's got 371 yards after 2 games, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Luckily, they have Jordan Howard. They still have Allen Robinson. He's got some weapons. He's got a good defense. I'm putting him here just for their defense. Number 12, Chicago Bears. Number 11, we have the 2-0 Denver Broncos. They kind of stole one. I mean, it was really kind of watching ineptitude on both sides of the ball at the end of the game. But they kind of stole one against the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders can't kick field goals and have a horrible coach. But I mean, they're 2-0. But this is, and this again, this might be high for the Broncos. Um, the Ravens probably have a chance to actually to knock them off, and we'll see the Broncos just tumble next week. But as it stands, they're 2-0. They have, they have a decent defense. They still have Von Miller. They have a couple of nice running backs. Demaryius Thomas has got to figure out how to catch the damn ball. Emmanuel Sanders looks good. Case Keenum, he's all right, but I mean, I'll say this: he still's got. I mean, he's a gamer. At the end of that game against Oakland, he was there. He looked, not the whole game, but at the end of that game, he looked really good. I got him at number 11. I think they're good. I have them at 11, but I can still see the Baltimore Ravens beating them. I mean, we'll see. They'll probably put some pressure on Flacco, and it won't matter. So this is kind of a defense with a better quarterback than the Bears. Number 10, we have the New Orleans Saints. This is partially off of potential. They are 1-1, but it's kind of a rough 1-1. I mean, I get it. The Buccaneers shocked everyone, putting up 48 points week one. But I mean, there's a real scenario where the Browns beat the Saints. I still think the Saints are better. I think they have the talent on the offensive, and with Kamara Kamara and Breeze. I mean, they have some, and Michael Thomas. They have a great running back, great wide receiver, great quarterback. Defense has got to figure things out. I do think the Browns defense is just that good. That's why they're at number 16. I mean, they're going to be at the Falcons this week, then at the Giants, and then at the Redskins. So New Orleans and Atlanta, as someone who lives in Atlanta, I cheer for Atlanta. I'm not like an Atlanta fan. I am from Atlanta. I do root for the Falcons, but the Falcons and the Saints always play each other hard. No matter where they are, no matter who's good, who's bad, it's always a dogfight. Atlanta fans hate New Orleans fans. New Orleans fans hate Atlanta fans. It's one of the few. I mean, I know the AFC North has some really good rivalries. This is a really good rivalry. Saints and Falcons hate each other, so at least from a fan perspective. All right, number 9. The 2-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, led by Fitzmagic. I'll be honest, I love seeing Ryan Fitzpatrick just tear it up. The man paid his dues. He paid his dues as a Buffalo Bill, as a New York Jet, bouncing around from team to team. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is his 7th team. Like I said, he's paid his dues. It's good to see him with some really good wide receiver talent. It's good to see him get out there, throw 8 touchdowns for 819 yards, leading the league in QBR and yards. It really is. He is averaging 13.43 yards a pass. I love it. I'm rooting for him. I love that Deshaun Jackson just came out and said that they should not bench Ryan Fitzpatrick for Jameis Winston. I don't think Jameis Winston... I wouldn't want Jameis Winston on my team. Nevertheless, my starting cornerback. I don't think he's mature enough. I know people see these amazing athletes and they're just like, you know what? I want you on my team. Quarterback's the one... That's one of the few positions where it's not about being the greatest athlete of all time. Quarterback's about being... You can be a second-tier athlete who works your ass off, is in the gym, in the the video room, studies video all the time. Great to see Ryan Fitzpatrick get in there on his 7th team, get the dub this week against the Eagles, against the Saints for this first week. It's going to be a shootout this week in Pittsburgh, and then they get the Bears. I think the Bears are going to be their first real challenge. I would imagine Tampa Bay beats the Steelers this week. I just think their offense is better. I think. Oh, look at that! Bucks Jameis Winston sued over alleged Uber incident. That is that would not be good. But I think that I would pick Tampa Bay over Steelers this week. But I think the Bears will be a real test because they actually have a defense. And then it's the Falcons, then it's the Browns. Couple of strong defenses in there. They don't have an easy slate. AFC South, NFC North. I mean, those are the two hardest schedules in the league, bar none. So, it'll be interesting. It's gonna be a lot of cannibalization between those two. I think the NFC South is stronger. I think they're gonna pick off some wins off the NFC North. The Bengals look good, as you see. I don't have them on my. I have not announced their spot yet, but they look good. All right, number 8, the Atlanta Falcons, the AFC or NFC South Atlanta Falcons. They are 1-1. They are coming off of a victory against the Panthers. And this might be too high. We'll see. This kind of potential again. Their wide receiver core is ridiculous. Their running backs even. Oh my goodness! They just lost their starting left guard 5 hours ago. Whew. I guess they just. Anyway, they picked up a win off the Panthers. They looked horrible against the Eagles. That looked like just so much rust. They have the Saints this week, Bengals next week, Steelers the week after that, Buccaneers the week after that. I mean, we will see who they are. You'll probably see them. High probability they just drop. I think they beat the Saints. I don't think they beat the Bengals. I think that Steelers game will be quite the shootout probably. I think that the Falcons still have a better defense, despite the fact that they lost 2 of their starting defensive players, Deion Jones, and Keanu Neal. Oh, losing your starting left guard that's rough. And then they get to play the Bucks. I kind of circle that one. There's kind of a scenario where they're 4-2 going against the Bucks. Losing one of those 3. Then there's also a scenario where they lose 2 out of those 3, 3 out of 3. I mean, I would assume they'll win 2 out of 3. I think they beat the Steelers. I just think their defense is better, and their offense is just as good. They can get into that shootout and kind of just get 1 or 2 more stops than the Steelers. So, and then after the Bucks, they get the Giants, the Redskins. There's a couple of nice cupcakes. So, they could be 6-2, or that I guess that's against the Bucks. Wait, they'd be what 3 and they'd be 3-2 going against the Bucks. That's gonna be a good game. So it could be 3-3, but then they go 5-3 after the Giants Redskins. I would presume they would make the playoffs this year, though. They do. I think they're gonna round into shape. They have to patch some holes. We'll see what happens. But number 7, the Cincinnati Bengals. So I think I'm kind of on an island here with the Bengals. I think people are underselling how good they are. Their comeback against the Colts for me was pretty impressive. I know I have the Colts pretty low, but I mean, I thought the Colts had them dead to rights. They were up like 23 points. Let's look at this. They were up At one point, I think it was 27-10. Well, actually, I can look, can't I? It was 23-10. Sorry, what am I saying here? It was 23-10, and after that, it was all Bengals. They poured on 24 points over the next two quarters. That was in the third quarter. The Colts went up 23-10, and then over the next quarter and a half, they scored 24 points straight to win that game. I I think they're the best team in the AFC North, and I think I guess we have to check on Joe Mixon, see if he's. Oh no! Oh no! Joe Mixon's hurt. He's gonna be out. See how long he's out. That's a blow. Not a guy you like to root for, but hell of a running back. 17 carries, 95 yards, and a touchdown against the Colts. And then they go in and they just punch the Ravens in the mouth. A strong 2-0 for them. Strong 2-0. Number 6. Your New England Patriots. I think I have them a little lower, but they're 1-1, and as you can see, I don't really value their win against the Texans. I got Texans really low. And to be honest, they got dominated by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like that game, it wasn't as close as it looked. It wasn't. I mean, what did it end? 31-20. I mean, the Patriots looked just inept on offense against the Jaguars. I know the Jaguars make people look inept, but whew, that was rough. They do get the Lions this week, so they should be able to get back to their high flying ways and put just a hurting on the Lions. And then they get the Dolphins, and then they get the Colts, and then it'll be the Chiefs. So. Real scenario. I mean, real possibility of being 4-1 going into that Chiefs game. I mean, they got some stuff to figure out. I mean, they let the Jaguars score 31 points. The Jaguars have like no one on offense. Leonard Fournette was out. Their number one running back was out, and they still got 31 points. They still put 31 points on the New England Patriots. That does not bode well for the New England Patriots. But, I mean, in Belichick we trust. Not a Patriots fan, but, I mean, I've been around long enough to watch them. Number 5, we have the Green Bay Packers. I mean, I'm honestly just kind of like surprised how good they are. I think that's a really quality win against the Bears. They should probably have lost against the Vikings. I think the Vikings should have beaten them. But they did end up getting the tie. I mean, Mason Crosby, I guess, should have hit that field goal, but the Vikings kicker should have hit his, so. I mean, it is what it is. But they get the Redskins, the Bills, the Lions, 49ers, and then finally the Rams. Real scenario of being, 5-0-1. They can beat all of them and then set up a matchup against the Rams, which will be. Then they get the Rams and then the Patriots back-to-back weeks. So, I think that the Green Bay Packers are pretty well set up for the next few weeks. I definitely like them. I mean, Aaron Rodgers hobbling out there. I mean, that he's really if he's in there, I think he's the best quarterback in the league. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, what he can do with Devontae Adams and Randall Cobb, and I really, he's the best quarterback in the league as long as he's playing, even with one leg. they have a shot to win any game. All right, number 4, those Minnesota Vikings. I mean, I think this is kind of. I mean, I guess if they had, obviously, if they had beaten the Green Bay Packers soundly, they'd probably be up a rank. But they ended up getting the tie after. I mean, they look good. They look real good. Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen got a buddy with it. Both of them on his fantasy. He's starting both wide receivers for the Minnesota Vikings. And he put up 60 points. He got 60 points from his wide receivers last week. In a tie. But the Vikings look fantastic. I mean, they've got everything. They've got 2 great wide receivers, a great running back. And I'll be honest, I'm actually impressed by Kirk Cousins against the Green Bay Packers. I mean, he showed me a lot. I mean, they didn't win, but he was making the plays necessary to try to get that win. And their defense is just spectacular. So who's the running back? Why can't I think of his name? Dalvin Cook. There it is. Love the Vikings. Can't wait. Week 4, we get Vikings Rams. That is going to be, circle that one. Circle it. Next week they get the Bills. It's going to be an absolute beating. But that week after, I mean, that's kind of the kind of winding up, getting ready for the St. Louis Rams. So really looking forward to that one. Or St. Louis, Los Angeles Rams. Good gracious. But good, just great stuff there. Can't wait for that game. All right, we got number 3. We got the 2-0 high-flying Kansas City Chiefs. And the best quarterback. No. I love it. But no, I mean, one of the most exciting quarterbacks we've seen. I mean, kind of, there's been a large, people have just been I've just been waiting for the next generation of quarterbacks to take over for the Breeze, the Peyton Manning era, just getting ready for this. Now we have Patrick Mahomes. We have Carson Wentz. I mean, there's some people starting to usher the great quarterbacks to be the next great quarterbacks. I mean, Tom Brady, still in the league at 41 is just ridiculous. I mean, you can just go down the line. I mean, Drew Brees still in the league. Eli Manning still in the league. Shouldn't be in the league, but still in the league. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger still in the league. We're finally getting some superstar quarterback. I mean, he looks like a superstar. I mean, he's thrown for 10 touchdowns in 2 weeks. 10 touchdowns through 2 weeks. It's exciting. I've got him on both of my fantasy football teams, so I'm super stoked. Super stoked. But yeah, next week they get the 49ers, then the Broncos, then the Jags. That's one to circle. That's one to find out if the Chiefs are for real. Whew. Jags, Patriots, Bengals. That's a rough stretch right there. But we'll find out if they really deserve to be number 3. Because number 2 is the Jacksonville Jaguars. After beating the Patriots soundly, after the Jaguars lost the Patriots in the AFC Championship game last week, they did not look scared in the slightest against the New England Patriots. they looked ready for revenge, and they got it. I mean, it doesn't count because, you know, New England got to go to the Super Bowl, but this is their first taste. And if the New England plays the Jaguars in the playoffs, the Jaguars are going to be ready, without a doubt. Oh, I guess I skipped one thing about the Patriots. Patriots just signed Josh Gordon, so helped them out with their wide receiving core. That's just dreadful. If he can still play football, we shall see. All right, so for the Jags coming up this next week, they have the Titans, then the Jets, then the Chiefs, then the Cowboys, then the Texans. I mean, there's a legitimate shot that they are undefeated. Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, there's a legitimate shot of them going. I mean, always people get tripped up. They just look that they are going to be favored in every game for the rest of the season. I mean, it would depend on what the Eagles look like when they play the Eagles. What is that, week 8? They play the Eagles. Eagles, have the possibility of waking up and showing themselves to be, Super Bowl champs again. But they could still be favored in that game. That's why they're number 2. Number 1, we have the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, the total package. The Jaguars lack the offense. The Rams do not. The Jaguars are like almost all defense, where the Rams are stacked on both sides of the ball. I mean, it's not like it's guaranteed anything happens in football. People get injured. But they look... And mind you, they've only played the Raiders and they played the Cardinals, but they look excellent right now. They're playing the Chargers this week. This should be not an easy game, but should be a solid win for them. It's the hardest game to date, but then they get the Vikings week 4. Again, circle that one. I mean, there's just everything about. I mean, they have 4 healthy wide receivers. They have Todd Gurley, who's top 2 running backs in the league, the top 1 running back in the league without Le'Veon Bell in. Very exciting, great stuff from them. So, and that's kind of our number 1 power rankings in the inaugural week 2 power rankings. We have the Los Angeles Rams. Number 2, we have the Jaguars. Number 3, we have KC. Number 4, we have the Vikings, and number 5 are the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to take this. I'm going to post it on Twitter and in Pinterest. So if you want to catch it either place there. Got a lot of exciting. This is probably the only time I'm going to do the full breakdown. Maybe we'll round back in like 10 weeks or so. But with it being the inaugural, I wanted to break it down. Usually, we do a little less sports on the, during this podcast, especially Tuesday. But with the inaugural, wanted to get these power rankings out there and kind of give that full breakdown. If you want to catch them, I'll probably mention them, maybe even cover the top 10 just briefly in the opening of the pod every week, but won't probably do a full deep dive unless you guys want it, just let me know. But probably back to our regular scheduled programming next week. Anyway, great couple of weeks for the NFL. Been a really great time watching football again, despite the moral dilemma. But anyway, that's basically all I have to say. It's been very much looking forward to week 3. If you have any questions or anything like that, you want to hit me up on Twitter. I am at RealSamShannon. Or if you want to hit me in my DMs here on Twitch. But yeah, I appreciate you listening. Stick around a little bit after the pod here on Twitch if you have any questions for me. And yeah, have a great week, and I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys next week. Please follow, like, subscribe wherever you're catching us. and we'll do this again. Thanks.